Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Today I have a new guest on our program, and this person is from Wisconsin, and she has run for office in Milwaukee County for the office of the Milwaukee County Executive, and she is originally from Tripura. If I get anything wrong, Purnima ji, please feel free to correct me. Purnima ji, welcome to PGurus channel.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time you took for talking to me.
It's my pleasure, Purnima ji. Viewers, you may have read an article that she wrote about Hindutva and why suddenly it's becoming so important in the United States of America, even outside the world. And it was an excellent article. I hope you've read it. If not, please go back to pgurus.com and look it up. Purnima ji has been an active management executive. I think she's an engineer. I forgot about after reading your background. Purnima ji, before I mess it up, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. It's interesting how, a life changes. And I took my life to that direction. It's not about what degree I have or, which direction is set for me. I've always let my life guide through the situation or circumstances. I'm an engineer by education, became a software engineer by first job, and then moved into management consulting. And then my life took me to nonprofit management, and then recently to politics. So that's how I evolved. Very vocal in issues. I write on global issues, management and leaderships and other topics. And I guess the way you put, yeah, absolutely right. I did run for Milwaukee County Executive role. I did not win, but it was an extremely important segment. I feel that my viewpoints was much different from what was general the youth was looking for. They're really looking for communism, they're looking for socialism, and I understand the grave danger it brings to our society and how it's literally a death trap for any society at this point. And I just couldn't stay and watch, they were going through that process. Of course, I didn't win and I don't have the ability to directly influence, but we made this huge dent, and we made a huge dent in the society to bring that concept of logic, concept of giving them ideas to how the whole big dream of free stuff isn't really going to work out well. So that is exactly, what I was doing for the last few months.
Well, Purnima ji, I think you're being very, very unassuming, because you polled 12.3% of the total vote. And for someone doing it for the first time, this is a very impressive achievement. And we hope that you go from strength to strength from here, and one day we hope to see you in the Congress, perhaps even in the Senate. So Dhirubhai Ambani once said, aim for the moon, you'll at least get to a tall building. So.
Absolutely. You never know where the life is going to take the direction or so. But as I was running, my first step was, I used to say, I'm not a politician. And that's a true statement.
Right.
And one of the gentlemen came up to me and say, don't say you're not a politician. Everything is politics. And he's absolutely right. And I sat with him. We discussed several topics about how life itself is politics. I come from corporate. I run a non-profit organization, and I have seen politics within corporate settings. I've seen politics in the social setting too. So when I was telling, and this gentleman really opened my eyes, and we sat down, read a particular book about how life is, it's actually about politics, and how you actually have to navigate several different stakeholders and goals, and bring our people together. So you're right that, yeah, for a first time runner, I had no political experience. Actually, in fact, I was not even looking to run. But the only reason I was running was because I thought it was my responsibility and sort of like a duty to not just be an observer anymore and sit and watch what was happening from back end, and and complain about things. And I'm like, this is the only way I can do something. Let's stop complaining, let's do something. So that is exactly why I ran.
Now, let's get to the topic that we were going to discuss, which is the fact that Hindutva is suddenly finding a lot of attention in the media. And I think this is actually being made up by a group. And before we delve well into it, I just want to set the context a little bit for our viewers. Now, viewers, 3 city councils, Seattle, Cambridge in Boston, and in Massachusetts, and St. Paul, have all passed resolutions almost identical in text against the CAA, the Citizenship Amendment Act of India, saying that it is discriminatory. Now, you've been following CHAZ or CHOP, whichever way you want to call it, in Seattle. And these people, in fact, not just Seattle, almost the whole world, everybody is fighting against discrimination of one kind or the other. Statues are being pulled down and so on and so forth. Yet these 3 city councils, which are the the standard bearers of anti-discrimination, have felt it proper to pass a resolution which is exactly that. It is trying to solve a problem wherein people of Indian origin were being discriminated in the countries they were living in. I mean, this was something that was applicable to everybody but the majority religion people in those countries. Now, tell me this, guys, these 3 city councils, I'm telling to all you fatheads. Why I say fatheads is because you're full of ego. You don't respond to some of our questions and emails and queries. If you think that we are saying something wrong, feel free to pick up the phone and yell at us. We'll be happy to listen to your point of view, which I don't know you have one or not. But my question to you, Purnima ji, is, are these city council members ignorant or dumb or both?
I'll start with this. There's a quote. It's not my own quote. It's Sadhguru said recently about differences between socialism and communism. And one of the sentence he said was, "Don't bother with leftists or liberals." And it's very, very important to understand the context of it. And I believe Yuri Bezmevov also talked about Thomas Schumann, who was a KGB agent. The reason he said it is because the way we work is that there's a leftist side and the rightist side. There's one of them is a logic based, and one of them is feeling based. What we are seeing currently is there's no logic, there's no fact which is going to help change their decision. First of all, they come to the table with a decisive mind already. They have already made a decision. So no matter how much letter you send to them, or how much fact you send to them, or how much important information you send to them, that their resolution is faulty, biased, and absolutely has no ground at all, it's not going to make any sense for them. So that is our main issue. We're not going to be able to fight it with fact. That is the truth. We have to accept it. So what you're seeing at this point, the fundamental issue with CAA was nobody within India is getting impacted. Some people who are getting impacted in different countries, our neighboring Indian countries, are getting fast path to citizenships. They're already in India, or they have already come from those kind of atrocities. They're already living for few years within India, and they're getting a fast path to citizenship, an expedited relationship within India. That's it. It was not extended to anybody else. And if anybody else want to come to India, they have to follow the same immigration laws and procedure. But what happened is they have changed the narratives. They have changed the narratives to show that people are getting discriminated, which is a false bias. So you are absolutely right. Now we got to understand what we are dealing with. What we are dealing with, a understanding of that we already getting subverted. Our society is getting subverted. The thought process is getting changed, and they're working with certain things that they're actually trying to destabilize the country. So when you talk about what is happening in India, you can literally cross off India's name and replace it with America, and all these points that we talked about, it applicable to America, applicable to Canada, applicable to even Europe. So to answer your question, the resolutions are faulty, biased, and they, you know, who are behind them. And I'll be honest with you today, and because I think people need to understand this. The several organizations who's working behind them is whether Equity Lev or CARE organizations or Human Rights for Hindus, which stand with Kashmir, those kind of organizations who has direct, or it was already been found out they have direct connections with terrorism and terrorist link. These are the organization who is trying to change narratives, and it is our bad luck, and I think it's quite a saddest view of our society at this point, that the youth doesn't understand that, and 20 years later it's all going to come out.
Well, the way I look at it, Purnima ji, and I could be wrong about this, the way I look at it, this is a backdoor Islamization of a country by making fake narratives of Islamophobia. These are all fake narratives because that's where the facts have to be used, unfortunately. And by using this and trying to create an uproar, all these three city councils, I'm accusing them of Hindu phobia. Because what you've done is, first of all, you've fallen for a fake narrative. Second of all, now you are discriminating a very kind, gentle community. In fact, Indians anywhere in the world are called the model ethnic minority because they go about their business. They never indulge in local politics. They don't demand that their prayers are being broadcast over speakers. They don't do it at 4 a.m. in the morning. They don't demand a certain version of law to be applicable to them. All these things they don't do. In fact, they don't do anything that is, skirting the law. The lowest number of prisoners in any prison the world over, I'm not even talking about India. India is different. I mean, if you're talking about outside India, the lowest number of prisoners in any country in the world would be Indians. And yet, this kind of a bias, how long do you think the majority is going to wait and listen and ignore it? Because ignorance sometimes can be dangerous. And in my opinion, now it is a time for the silent majority to find their voice. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. What you have touched on is the combination of Islamic political agenda with the communism. Now, when you talk about India, and right, I'll be honest with you at this point, is Hindus actually don't go around and try to impose their belief systems anywhere in the world. So when you talk about Indians, it's actually large sections of Hindus. But again, when you look at the Islamic portion of India, they actually get engaged in the political scene. They try to impose their belief system within the society, no matter where they go. And in fact, I'll tell you, I'll actually take an example. When I was running, one of the key point the media has taken over, and they actually labeled me as a anti-Muslim, Islamophobic. And every interview that I have been part of, they have asked me about this. And I'll tell you the situation. A few months ago, maybe a year ago, so one of the tweet I made, it was something to do about a family, a refugee family that went to UK. I believe it was London. And the video was showing how small is her apartment and how she was absolutely unthankful and ungrateful that UK has given her a place to stay. and she was complaining about the size of her apartment. So I wrote, my context was, it doesn't matter what you give them. They're constantly finger pointing to other people, other cultures. At least they have gotten a nice place to stay in, but they're still not thankful. So I tell you exactly what that is. They're trying to create a narrative, going to different countries or so, and telling them that they are getting discriminated. I think these are the point that we really need to work on and make sure that we don't fall for the trap. Now, from the other point that you brought out in terms of how long you're going to stay quiet, I am not quiet anymore. And I think that's exactly what we need to bring to the larger silent group and say, how long you want to stay quiet? 70 years, thousands of years you have stayed quiet. And the folks, our ancestors who has gone through tremendous amount of atrocities and brutalities, we still stayed quiet, and none of the Hindus you can see as a quote unquote terrorist. We have gone through tremendous amount of issues, yet we don't pick up a weapon to try to demoralize and destabilize a community we are part of. Why not? And the fundamental issue is actually our teachings, our belief system. It doesn't allow us. We believe in ahimsa paramo dharma, but our Gita and other scriptures also tell us it's not a time to keep quiet when you are getting bashed, when you are getting slaughtered. So it's important for us as a society, as a Hindu society, to understand that yes, thousands of years you have kept quiet, and you don't have to become a terrorist, but you have to stand up for the right. You have to stand up for your belief. You have to also make sure you are part of a movement, that you are the ones today at a global scale are speaking up about the atrocities. That's exactly what I want from my silent Hindu groups. And I'm fascinated by Islamic group that I've been part of and I was invited to. Their reach to political or any societal level is extremely thought out. Whether it's a local government, whether it's a school board, whether it is a national seat, they're everywhere. They have lobby system, which Hindus doesn't. We don't even have a center for Hindu. We don't even have a lobby group for pushing our thought process. If somebody like me, we get attacked so much in the media also, I have that death threat coming through, I have nobody to turn to, no lawyers to turn to. So it's not about just the speak up. We don't even have a support system. We don't have a context of if something happens, where do we go to? So it's not about just a courage to talk about, but we need to build a society where people like us or anybody who speaks up, we as a community stand next to them and support them. For example, just a week back, I don't know if you have heard about a employee from Deloitte. His LinkedIn shows that he's a Deloitte employee, but in Facebook or Twitter, I don't think he has any information about he's a Deloitte employee. But he was talking about supporting CAA, supporting Hinduism, and etc. He was targeted, and the Deloitte was copied. He was called on by Deloitte employee relation, and was trying to understand whatever was he was posting about statistics of India, CA, and etc. Was it right or not? So you have to understand what's going on. Now, when I digged into this information, I found out there's a tremendous amount of Kashmiri influence, Kashmiri Muslim influence. They're working in a nexus. They're trying to target him. The ultimate goal is for them to make sure that this guy is fired. Now, yes. I stood for him and I talked about him, and then I got attacked because I talked about him. so we really need to come together and build up a support system.
You know, you mentioned something that triggered my mind. This is a playbook. They have a playbook exactly like this. There's a guy called Ramasubramanian in Toronto, and I'm trying to reach out to him. And if by any chance, Ramasubramanian, if you're watching this video, please reach out to me. and I will give the contact information. So this gentleman was trying to mobilize people in Canada, in the city of Toronto, or one of those neighborhoods. I don't know exact details. I heard this from a chat that Tariq Fateh had with somebody else. And evidently, this person works for the city, and he was mobilizing people against the playing of the azan on loudspeakers in mosques in Toronto. And these people ganged up. They found out that this guy works for a city department, and they got him fired. This is illegal, guys. The city which did this thing, they have shown, a very, very bad judgment, and they are essentially discriminating against someone who is complaining about noise pollution. Think about that. What do you want to do at 4 a.m.? You want the loudspeakers blaring? I mean, this reality is something that India and Indians in India have lived for a lot of time, being tolerant, and this is. Believe me, it jars the mind. Every time I used to go back to India, I was very close to a mosque. It used to really shake me up because I was not used to that kind of a noise coming so early in the morning. But go ahead, please go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's a very important issue. Recently, Allahabad High Court has dismissed
upheld that thing. Yes, you cannot play. Yeah.
Correct. So this is happening. They're working on a tremendous amount of political influence to push their agenda. Why do we, let's say you are a Christian or Hindu or Jew, why do we have to listen to their azan, which the first kalma itself says about there is no God other than Allah? Whether you call them Allah, whether you call it God or Jesus Christ or Shiva, or it should not matter at all. But the whole notion of imposing that is coming across, and that is exactly what is our issue. Now, if you look back what Indian society is, first of all, we have been tolerant. And second of all, the political scenario was different. 70 years of communism and socialism that came across and implementing policies that subverted Hindu community was also part of it. We can't overlook what happened in the last 70 years. It's supposed to be we are an independent country, but it was never an independent country because the folks who sat in the political seats had a different kind of motive, whether it was a temple property grab or tax grab from the property of the temple, or it was passing through policies for Hajj and other societies subsidy. So why it was not a equal country when the country was actually divided based on religion, actually divided based on voting system in 1946? Why did we build up a society where continuously in a subsequent policy based it was Hindu community was shoved down? Why? We have to understand, we have to speak up, we have to literally be vocal at this point that this is no longer a time that we can simply just stay quiet and let's see people take over us. At this point, we literally maintained a 79% of Hindus within India. We had 21% of minority. It's no longer a minority. If the data is correct, in Indian context, we don't have 250 million of Muslims. I think it is some of the reports also came out that the data that comes out is wrong. The data is even much more higher, 350 to 400 million of Muslims. If that is correct, then you no longer a country who actually carries just third majority Muslims. It actually carries the majority of Muslims in the entire world. We have been very tolerant. We have been compassionate. We don't care who follows what path. That is our Sanatana Dharma. That is Hindu Dharma. That's why we don't mind if somebody is Christian, somebody is a Muslim, and we are accepting to everybody. But what currently is happening or continue to happen is the imposing on us. That is exactly, I think, we need to stand up and fight against.
Yes, indeed. And here is a shout out to everyone. Please get involved in your school councils, get involved in your local council elections, make your voice heard. This is not going to go away. We didn't ask for it, but it has been thrust upon us. And unless you find your voice and speak loud and clear, there are dark clouds looming ahead. Thank you very much, Purnimaji, for your thoughts on this subject. And I wish you all the best on behalf of our viewers as well as PGurus. Namaskar.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time. I look forward to connect with you another time. Thank you.
Thank you.